Let's talk movies, the slow ones, and the really slow ones. Welcome to Lobby Concessionals, the movie podcast where nobody's right and everybody is wrong. That's Brendan and I'm Parker. Click the like, the subscribe, the links, do the things.
So close to begging.
Oh, yeah. Like, this is already begging. We're at that point.
Groveling. Is that the next step?
Groveling. Yeah. We can... Anything.
Oh, at this point.
Just trying to feed my family. We are, once again, or actually I don't even know what order we're releasing these. So we are joined by my dad, Tim.
Hello. Hi, world.
This might be your first episode. This might be your second. Who's to say?
Right.
So, good.
You might never see the light of this. Might never see the light of day.
This might not, you're going
I
there.
may shit the bed here and it never sees the light of day.
Yeah.
Good.
So we're doing an objectively wrong. Which we haven't done for a little bit. We had two kind of right off the bat, and then haven't really touched them. So, which is, I guess, nice. We haven't really met that many people that are objectively wrong, or that are.
No, we have. We
haven't met that many people that we want to spend time with that are objectively wrong.
Yeah, and I'll say it out loud. Like we've also run into a lot of objectively wrong, where it's just certain people have certain issues with an actor or an actress.
Yeah.
And we didn't want it to turn into bringing people on and bagging on a certain dude.
But I was going to say, this one here is where you guys tag team and just be like,
well, no,
come on, you.
Here's where you need to know
straight
why you're an
I
idiot.
love it.
Yeah.
So, I don't know if we ever really got a specific definition of your objectively wrong opinion here. But... Is it reasonable to say that you are not a fan of slow movies?
Well, yes and no. So this is a really tough one because I love movies in general.
Sure.
But when they are very, very slow, and I find, and in particular, some of the more recent, the last, say, 10 years of movies, I've really struggled where... If I'm in the theater and all of a sudden I'm looking around, for me that's like really telling in a very physical sense that, oh God, this is a slow part of the movie.
Sure.
Now, and I've done that. I'm guilty of doing that in MCU movies where there's a very high level of action and things and very well written. And so I'm not saying that the movie was bad overall, but I just find that in the slow parts, there's a challenge there.
So I don't want to put you on the spot totally here, but do you have an example of something of a movie that you found was really slow? You couldn't put up with it,
So sorry, and what are you saying? That I would leave the theater, or that I couldn't put up with it?
You just struggled with it in general.
Yeah, like you didn't enjoy the film because of that particular portion.
Okay, so you guys are going to beat up on me verbally.
That's
now
over here.
Because
maybe physically, we'll see.
Right?
Yeah.
So I found The Lighthouse very challenging. I've watched here we go. The gloves are off.
That's a horseshit take.
Rolling his sleeves up now, going, all right, here we go. The brass knuckles.
No, that's fair.
So that was a very challenging film for me. But I watched it. I watched it through. And that's kind of in my defense before you guys start raining down blows is that for the most part, I only have one movie that I have ever walked out on and never saw again, and that was The Fountain with Hugh Jackman and Rachel
Jackman.
Weisz. Hugh Jackman.
Yeah.
And so
Darren Aronofsky, I believe.
Yeah. Also a phenomenal film.
Let's not go to it should receive no credit. It's the worst movie I'd ever seen, at least in my reference in the but
now, sorry, just before
go ahead, Lighthouse.
That's just wrong for sure. I've walked out of a movie with you.
Really? Did we?
Yeah.
Which one was that?
Michael Mann's Black Hat with Chris Hemsworth.
Hold on. You wanted to walk out. Of course, you're my son, so I said fine. But I've watched that movie. I watched that movie.
I'm gonna leave the podcast.
Wow. Okay, so no. I just, this isn't the place to air this, But we made a pact,
right?
That we had both sat through films before that we were like, no, like that we shouldn't have.
Right.
We should have just left. And so we decided together, if like I assumed you were enjoying it, so I didn't want to leave. So we decided if we're feeling that, we'll tell the other person, and then we can decide together. Right. Then at least that person knows. Because if they're also thinking, well, if you're thinking, well, Parker's enjoying this, I'll stick around, and I'm thinking, well, Dad's enjoying this, I'll stick around, we both end up worse off. So I turned to you in Black Hat and said, I'm not having a great time, but I'm okay to, to hang out. And you went, oh, no, this sucks. So now you're telling me that was a lie?
No.
You see the difference there? Is that he didn't see the bus that you threw him under.
Right.
Yeah. Just out of nowhere. Holy. No, I don't even want to hear your response.
That's all right. Good.
Okay. So slow films. I was looking up some movies,
right?
And I realized as I was going through, there's a few of these I'm not a huge fan of. But so I was looking up some slow movies. In general, how do you feel about a film like 2001: A Space Odyssey?
Oh, okay. Me?
Yes.
It's not up there on a list of a million my very best movies. It's a good movie, and
personally, I had a really hard time getting through it.
Yeah, fair enough.
I think I've watched it once and have no real general desire to see it again.
Right, and I've watched it a couple times, but we also. You got to understand, though, in reference, there has to be a context about generations and things. Because we talk about, when we talk about 2001 and things, I'll reference, like, there was a whole section of the movie industry at one point, years and years and years, where every single movie had to be a musical. You know what I mean? And I don't know that decade. Was it in the 40s or 50s or early 60s, where every single movie that Hollywood were putting out the only ones were musicals. What I'm saying is that there is a section in my life where I felt that every single movie was this long drawn out story, that the makers of that particular movie, it had to have an amazing layered story to it, and it wasn't about it being made for an audience as much as it was made for the maker of that film, the producers or whatever, and they weren't. You know what I mean? And so that's what I'm saying in defense of sometimes slow movie.
What do you say? You're saying that that you have to consider it in the historical context? What do you say?
Yeah, in some ways.
We've got a long
2001. Right, yeah.
And I was like, give me a quick take, and we have now talked about 2001 for a while. Like, we can.
2001 to me is a curiosity anomaly. It is a movie that shouldn't exist in the time period that it was made.
Right.
It might not even should exist now. And you're right. It's long, and it's a tough watch.
It's boring.
Right.
It's a tough watch. I get it in terms of why it's considered one of the best of all. My thing is when somebody asks me about 2001, I'm like, tell me how a boardroom in the 60s gets that script and is like, let's make it.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, an intermission? Totally.
Well, and as far as I know, like it was financially decently successul. Like,
I don't know. Is it like a really good makeout movie? I don't understand.
Like that's what I mean, right? So, so yay or nay? That do you like or dislike 2001?
Oh no, I didn't like it.
But, okay. No, don't. That's it. I got a list. Yay or nay?
Oh, I didn't enjoy it. It wasn't mine.
Zodiac. David Fincher film, 2007.
Yeah, Jake Gyllenhaal.
Yay or nay?
I didn't like that movie, but I watched it twice or 3 times.
No, stop. I got a list. There will be blood.
Still gonna.
You don't want me answering these.
I don't want you to answer.
Gotcha.
Because it's about him.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
There will be blood.
I liked it.
You liked it?
Yeah.
Okay.
But it's, again, it won't be on my top 100 movie list,
Okay.
but I enjoyed it
So sort of like
enough
if-
to see
if
it
there
3
was
or 4
like a
times.
yay or a nay.
Right, sorry,
You had
yes
to
or
say-
no?
Yeah, what do you think?
Yeah,
Yes?
Yeah, I liked it.
Okay,
I
yeah.
liked it.
Assassination of Jesse James by the coward
Oh,
Robert
no,
Ford.
I didn't like that
No.
at all.
Thin Red Line.
Okay, this is how that movie did not resonate for me. I can't even remember the plot of that one, but I do know the movie. But yeah, no.
Any of Terrence Malick's movies. Tree of Life.
Oh God, no. Yeah, right.
Okay.
And maybe that's him, but I don't mean to slight one director,
that guy
but this
sucks.
story.
No, we're moving on.
It's
Brendan.
not about me.
We're moving on. No Country for Old Men.
I liked it.
Taxi Driver.
No, not my favorite. I've watched it.
Prisoners.
Get fuck out of here.
No, I didn't like that one.
Not Prisoners. Just to be clear, 2013.
Hugh Jackman
Jackman.
and Gyllenhaal. Yeah. No, great story. Really good, compelling story, but not.
Okay. The Witch. The Robert Eggers film from 2015.
Boy, that's a real hard one to say. I liked it because it was a really cool story, but no. It's not my favorite. Yeah.
Drive.
Oh, I really like Drive.
Heat.
Oh, loved Heat.
Okay.
Robert De Niro, right? And
Yeah.
loved Heat.
Maybe this
Val
isn't the
Kilmer?
podcast for you.
Oh God! Here we go.
Here's the reason I asked you this.
Yeah.
What sets apart the yays from the nays in this? Like I think in a lot of cases, the list I've just read, they're not maybe universally, but they're generally considered to be great films.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's not that there's a massive difference in quality, and they are all quite slow.
Right.
So let's try and dig into this. What sets Drive apart from Prisoners for you? You know, if you like one, or what sets Zodiac apart? You know, why?
Well, and it's really interesting because I think, we were talking about this prior to the podcast, and I was struggling to think of some of the movies where I found it really slow. But let's look at Prisoners as an example, and Drive. And Drive for me was I felt it was really compelling. I've seen it many, many times. We saw it in the theater, obviously, and then after I've seen it before. Now it's not up there with the movie that I would see a million times. For instance, most recently, Thor Ragnarok. I've seen it so many times and just loved it every time that I've seen it. But for Drive, for instance, like you were talking about, you guys have used it before, where it's a slow burn.
Yep.
When you're kind of watching but I felt that the way they layered the scenes in the story, even without any sort of words being spoken, where you'd have these several minutes of a scene and for me, I found it engaging. My problem that I have is in, and bear with me here, is in very poor storytelling, where there may be language or some sort of a monologue where I'm like, oh, fuck, that could have been cut. Like, why is this movie 2 hours when it could have been done in an hour 20?
Okay.
Like this answer.
Pardon me?
Like this answer.
Okay, good. I wanted to walk away with less bruises than anybody else. And that's my thing, is that I can tell, I'm no expert, but at the same time, I've literally seen thousands of movies in my lifetime.
Sure.
Like, I've said to you before, and as you know, Brendan, very young age, started watching movies, and that was me. Movies, right? I even made my own version of Indiana Jones, Raiders of the Lost Ark, that's I've still got tucked away in VHS tapes in a closet in my home. But my point is that given that experience, now I can go into a movie and I'm very discerning to tell, oh, fuck, that was, how lazy is that writing? They could have done that differently. And because we already know we don't need any more character development. We know who this character is. We don't need to have another layer. Oh God, and now here, let's unpeel the onion. A really good example that just popped into my head that's probably a terrible example for you guys. The Dirty Harry movies is an example with Clint Eastwood
Sure.
and those actions. I don't know if you've seen them, but my point is that we don't need to go into his story, Clint Eastwood's character's story, Dirty
Sure.
Harry, in the second movie. We don't need to go into it in the third one, Sudden Impact and all those others.
Yeah.
We laid it out. Plus, on top of it, the very first Dirty Harry movie, we don't really know what his backstory is. What we know is that he's a hard-nosed cop who breaks the rules, or whatever. And then, of course, that's a cookie cutter thing for every single cop after that.
But do you even bother watching 2 through 5 if it's the same thing? If you don't get any backstory? If Dirty Harry's 2 through 5 are the exact same thing as Dirty Harry 1, where we don't know anything and it's just the same plot over and over and over again, do you care? Do you go back for it?
Well, and maybe I threw out the wrong example because... there's not a lot of options for entertainment at that point. It's either you go see a movie or you sit in your front yard and play,
Look at the rocks.
Right, right? Guns and, I gotta, or tag, right?
Yeah,
you
yeah,
just stare
yeah.
at. So so you would, right? And to answer your question, the simplest thing is you would absolutely go to the next Dirty Harry movie, even though it was like the first one.
Sure.
You're right, because, now there's a different bad guy, or maybe there's going to be something different. Now if you ask me, after being discerning and all the experience, I'm like, fuck that. I mean, I'm not going to spend any money on the second Dirty Harry because I'm like, well, that's the fucking same as the first.
Yeah.
So now, but based on those things and what you learn from those terrible movies, now at this point, I'm like, no, I'm not going to fucking pay either a ticket for that. So go ahead.
Are you trying
me.
to say that basically because of your experience, you can look at a movie like Prisoners and go, nope, because you've experienced, what you like. Is that what I'm hearing?
That's the nice way of saying it.
Yeah.
Well, okay, but Prisoners is a...
It doesn't matter the movie. My
Right,
point
right.
is, are you saying that it's because of that experience that you're like, yep, so I'm going to like this slow one and I'm not going to like this slow one, and I can't point to a reason why, but it's because I like what I like, sort of. Is that what you're saying?
Well, let's put it this way. Here's a really good thing, and we laugh at this because I've made comments about this to the family all the time, is I'll go and ask somebody and say, you saw this movie.
Sure.
And my question to them is it worth the price of a ticket? Now,
Right,
that's
right,
hilarious,
right.
right? In a generation, I'm sure there's a lot of people around the world who agree with me that that's how they determine whether I'm going to go see this in the theaters or not.
Right.
It doesn't mean that I'm not going to see it because, again, I love movies. And
Yeah.
so there are times where you, as an example, Parker, have told me, oh, Dad, that was a shitty movie. Don't see it.
Yeah.
And then, the first Suicide Squad as a really good example where it was like, don't buy a fucking ticket. And I was like, okay, fair enough. But I still watched it 3 times the minute it came out.
What?
Yeah, streaming. I've seen it. I've watched it 3 times, and I was like, for me, and this is where I'm going to get the bruises. Here they come, and let's bring out the first aid kit. So but for me, there is story in that where I'm like, oh, this story is compelling, and there are certain characters compelling. Absolutely, I don't want to see this guy ever again, or I hate this part, and I don't want to see this person at all. But at the end of the day, I'll still watch it because I'm like, oh yeah, that was a good part.
Yeah, I'll watch Suicide Squad 3 times, but man, do I hate Taxi Driver.
I didn't say I hate it. I didn't say I hate it.
Hold on. I think the point of what you're trying to say is you just like watching movies. So
Right.
So even though Taxi Driver's a nay on the short list, you've probably seen it
3 times.
3 times.
At least
same
that I
amount
can
of
remember.
Squad.
Yeah.
So 3 times. Let's just say 3.
Yeah. Brendan, I think you're gonna die here.
Right, he
You were reacting.
I'm surprised he hasn't started swinging.
No, it's not about me.
Yeah. So what I'm getting out of this is you can't even point to a reason. Like there's no common thread that goes, okay, these are all slow movies. I like these 6. I dislike these 8, and here's what separates them.
Right.
It's truly just vibes with you.
Well,
At the end of the day, like when you walk through the list and his reaction to Terrence Malick movies, I get that, and maybe even Aronofsky movies. There's a weightiness to those. It's a little bit, and I don't want to use the word cerebral because
Right.
I'm not insinuating you're dumb, but they're heavy movies.
Yeah.
They're
Right.
not just slow, but it's exhausting to watch
Correct.
those movies, and I get it.
Yeah.
Like I might enjoy it, but I absolutely understand something like not enjoying Malick movies or an Aronofsky movies.
Yeah.
Like, but the taxi driver thing drives me nuts.
The which?
The taxi driver thing drives me nuts.
How many times have you seen it? And is it on your list? Like you love it? You have-
Yeah, absolutely.
yeah.
I probably maybe 20, 30 times. I don't know.
Wow,
But,
amazing.
I don't know. Maybe.
I'm not a big rewatch guy in most
Yeah.
situations. I've seen it once personally, but Heat, you have
Oh, yeah.
you're
Oh
a
my
big
God.
yes for.
Amazing movie.
I think Michael Mann is one of the worst for putting stuff in films that probably doesn't need to be there or it being too long.
Yeah.
Heat is absolutely guilty of this, where there is scenes where it's like, I can't think of a specific reason this needed to be here, but that guy does not like calling cut.
Right.
Like he's just like, let it run. Yep.
Yeah.
Pacino's picking up milk. Let's go. So
Well, and I get it. And Heat is a really good example of a movie. Like I really like the movie, and you look at it from the whole. But there are like that whole subplot of him and his ex-wife or his wife that he's separating from, and then she has a boyfriend. I was like, oh fuck that. And so this is where we were talking about. The very first time I saw the movie, those scenes for me were like throwaway. So
Sure.
that's, but in the theater, when I saw, you're going to take it for the whole because there were so many good scenes in there that outweigh the bad, boring shit. You're like, why did they go in that direction? So it's a really good example of something where movie is 2 hours long. And I was like, oh, it could have been, an hour and a half. It could have bed an hour and a half if they had lost this part because we really didn't need to see that plot.
Sure.
We already knew the character of Al Pacino's character. We knew it. We didn't need to see that he's having challenges with his daughter and with his wife.
Or maybe
or
once,
whatever.
right?
A little
sixth
thing, but
time
it
is
kept
like,
going on, right?
yeah.
And so, but for me, this like Robert De Niro's character and his whole storyline there was brilliant, and that was what made it for me. Sorry, but let's go back, for instance, to where you guys want to beat me up in regards to the Lighthouse. Like there was when I first saw it, I was like, okay, I need to see all of these shitty scenes in order to get these guys, and this is how I feel. So. In order to understand the layers of these guys. But the second time I watched it, and this is where...
You came back to it.
Oh, of course.
That's what I mean. Like,
but
he'll watch garbage and good movies. Like, he just likes watching
Yeah,
movies.
sure,
right?
sure.
Like,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
it's frankly it's amazing. Like, it deserves to be commended, just the amount of dedication to watching
think of me as a
movies.
movie reviewer where these poor guys are paid to go through absolute trash before they find these golden nuggets. But I absolutely, like I said, the second time I watched it, I was like, oh, fuck, I don't need to see this seagull thing. So immediately it's fast forward, blah, blah, blah. And then there's the whole thing about him, the mermaids or whatever the fuck it was. And I was like, let's move on.
So are you... you watch a movie. You don't like it. You return to the movie. And you edit it on the fly?
Yeah. I'm just like, correct.
To
So
a
I'd
more
give it.
to a
This
more
is why Parker loves this.
to more preferable movie?
Yeah, that's a Tim movie now.
Right. Well, let's just get to that scene because I thought that scene was brilliant.
And like I say, that it's not even about better than the director. It's just this is the movie you would have rather seen.
I
never
want to be
thought
able
of it
to
from
watch.
that point of view.
I want to be able to watch The Lighthouse and then watch The Lighthouse as directed by Tim.
It's 20 minutes.
Correct. You get that movie down to 20 minutes and you're like, oh, yeah, those guys are screwed up. What the fuck just happened?
So what's what is the reasoning to revisit it? Like I have a hard time. Like I used to do that. I not as badly. Like I used to have like if it was a bad movie, I would never revisit it. But if it was a movie where I felt like I didn't enjoy it, but I knew there was something there, I'd try it again.
Yeah.
But if you watch something and you flat out don't like it, what's the I'm gonna go back to the Suicide Squad thing because
yeah.
that's That's amazing to me in the worst way. So like, what makes you go back a second time, much less a third time?
So I loved Will Smith's portrayal of, and I'm sorry I forgot superheroes. Deadshot. I thought his storyline was really the strength in that movie. The girl, Cava, blah, blah, blah.
Cara Delevingne.
Yeah. Absolute worst. And I apologize if she's listening, but you should.
She's listening. That's
right.
That's great, but she
should
sucks.
not be in movies. There's no way. I don't know how somebody thought that she was a good actress. I'm watching, for instance, Only Murders in the Building with the Disney Plus streaming thing.
Sure.
And she's been in 2 episodes, and every single fucking scene that she's in, I'm like, what the fuck is going on? Let's move on to Martin Short and Steve, Martin, and let's just get on with it, because she is fucking bringing this movie down. TV show.
Yeah.
My point is, I'm a movie lover at heart, and I literally have. I have a backstory, and I apologize for the sake of time. I'm going to just ramble on here, but I'm the guy that in high school and things, I would go and on my Saturdays and Sundays. So I had a friend that was as much a movie lover as I did. So we would go Friday night, the early show and the late show. Now remember, kids, when I was growing up, the theaters didn't have movies in the afternoons. There was no afternoon matinee or anything. There was on the Saturday and Sunday afternoon, there would be one show, but there'd be only 3 showings of that movie. So anyway, Friday night, we'd see the early show, it's usually 7, and then the late show at 9. Saturday, we'd see a matinee, then we'd see the early show, and we'd see all of these movies. So I would see 8 movies in a weekend, as an example.
Sure.
No streaming services, stuff like that.
Yeah.
That's how it is. I love movies so much that I'll go, wait a minute, there's got to be something I'm missing, right? So that I saw it the first time, Suicide Squad, in the theater, and I was like, wow, that's a shitty movie. Don't like that girl at all. But then I'm like, okay, it's come out now for stream. I'm going to watch it again because I really like that strength of that element, of it with Will Smith and his storyline. I'll get through the other shit. Anytime that Cara Delevingne. Yeah, see, I don't even remember her name. That's how terrible an actor I think she is. But I would just skip through that bit and then get on to the good parts, the action side, this and that.
Sure.
I mean, obviously Margot Robbie left a really... I thought she was brilliant in it as well. So then the third time, same thing. I'm gonna watch it again because I was just thinking about this, and then I'll do that. Also, as another defense, obviously a movie lover again, Parker, you know this growing up, that there were many, many times where I would buy a movie and you're like, fuck, Dad, you told me that you were bored through 3/4 of it. And I'd be like, yeah. But there's this one scene that hit me right in the heart, and I was crying in the theater about it, and this is why I'm buying this movie. One that resonates at this point, and everybody like listener.
I'm beyond laughing at this point.
Yeah.
It was the Clooney movie with Jennifer Lopez in it. She was
Out of Sight is
marshal.
an amazing movie.
Out of Sight.
That's a fantastic movie.
Well, thank you. I'm glad you agree. I found it. I loved it, and I watched it. I don't know how many times, but one of the things is that I remember somebody challenged me on it who did not like that movie at all, Out of Sight, and I was like, yeah, but there's one scene as the relationship is building between Jennifer Lopez and George Clooney's characters. He says one thing. I forgot what it was, but he says it. God. He has a line in there where he says, Parker, your eyes are lighting up. Oh, okay.
No, I have no clue.
There's one line that he says to her about the fact that everything else didn't matter because she was like, how are you and I even compatible? And then his character says the same question one line, right? And he goes, and I was like, that was it. That whole movie resonated. And I remember walking out of the theater, and I did this often when you were growing up. That one, I'm buying that one. Yeah, and I used to say that hundreds of times.
From one line.
Yeah. There were movies that I have in my collection.
So the conclusion is you have an abusive relationship with movies.
He likes what he likes. He likes what he likes.
Or he hates what he likes. Right? He likes what he hates. It's a really, really strange thing. Like, again, I understand the idea of coming back to Suicide Squad a second time.
But not a third time.
It blows my mind that you'd go back a third time.
Right.
I don't get it because I haven't even seen that movie, and I know I will not like it.
That's exactly it.
So, like, from my point of view, it's like, no, I'm 100% convinced I'm not going to enjoy anything about this, so I'm not going to watch
I can't erase enough of it out of my head.
Yeah.
Well, and then can I? Oh God, here we go. Fists are flying. I intend to watch Morbius.
Oh,
the Jared Leto. I'm going to watch it. I absolutely am.
Sure, the first time.
Yeah, but
what do you mean? Don't encourage that.
I'm just saying that at some point, like, I have the same problem. Like, I get curious, right? Like, Morbius is a really good
100%.
example of a movie. Famously, I thought was going to be bad,
Right.
and it was just bad.
Yeah.
Right.
And there's going to be stuff like that. You're going to come across that when you watch that many movies. Will I ever watch again? No. Why would I ever watch that again?
Yeah.
But you're going to watch that movie 4 times.
Maybe. So, and yes, I will. And you actually hit it on the head, Brendan.
No,
as well.
there's no.
In reference to Taxi Driver, as an example that you absolutely love,
Sure.
I've seen it a handful of times, but it kept showing up on people's lists of best movies ever made or whatever, top 100, top 500.
Sure.
Same thing with like Godfather and stuff. I get it. It resonates, but because I'm a movie lover, if I didn't really enjoy it, I'm like, well, I got to go see it again because maybe I'm missing something. Because if it's popping up on thousands of people's lists of the best movie, and even now, early on, we happen to be talking about Jaws as an example, and you made this comment about the Jaws movie, saying that it's actually been commented on as the best movie ever made by filmmakers. And now I'm like, okay, it's been a few years since I saw Jaws. Now, in that filter, I want to watch it again.
Yeah.
Because then I want to see, wow, okay, so filmmakers thought this. So what was it about this scene?
So why haven't you watched Taxi Driver?
Oh, no, hold up.
I've watched Taxi Driver at least 5 or 6
What
times.
inspired you to watch Suicide Squad again, then? Like,
Well,
did someone
okay.
sit you down and were like, best film ever made? Tarantino thinks it's the greatest film of all time.
Well, okay, let's put it this way. Brendan already kind of references too. But I saw it the first time, didn't enjoy it, but then people continued to say how terrible a movie it was. And I was like, well, I got to revisit it because what is it?
Why? But you agreed with them.
I did agree with it.
I don't
but I was
understand.
like, yeah, but was it really that bad? I mean, maybe it's one of these things where, somebody has an injury and when they have
It
an
feels
injury,
like it might
the
be
pain
you.
is amazing. And then 2 years
It's in
later,
your brain.
I was thinking about with birthing of a child as an example, and then
You can't use that example.
they can't, it's like people say it's worst pain I ever experienced, and then yet they have another child and another child. And I'm like, what? Like, did you forget? Anyway, that's the only thing that popped into my mind. And here come
You
the
have
negative
4
comments.
kids.
Yeah, because there's a payoff. It might be the worst pain, but those kids grow up to take care of you. Suicide Squad isn't going to be there for you in 40 years.
Or ever.
Ever again, right?
It will-
Right?
Yeah, maybe I'm the Suicide Squad. Just constant disappointment.
Well, now they come out with a so much better Suicide Squad that I'm never going to go back to the other one.
I refuse to believe that.
Given this conversation.
Right?
Yeah.
Well, like they said, dementia notwithstanding, I'd be going, hey, I've never seen this before. Oh, no, now I remember.
Pivot me.
So
Pivot me.
I don't know if I have too much more to say. Like, I think we've kind of picked some of this apart. Because it really sounds like what this comes down to is you like what you like.
Yeah.
So we can't really point to anything.
Can I just say, though, I'll never watch the assassination of Jesse James told by the blah, blah, blah.
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
I
yeah,
saw it once, and that's it. That
it
fucking
was
movie.
boring.
No
Boring
way.
as hell.
Same with Lighthouse. Sorry, guys. I won't watch it again.
Oh, it's
You watched
great.
it twice already.
It's really,
Well, I
really
have seen
good.
it twice. You're right. Thank you. But that's it.
Incredible.
I'm never going back to it
Incredible.
again. I'll probably go back to Taxi Driver if everyone keeps talking about it. See,
People keep talking about the Lighthouse.
Well,
though. Okay.
right. Love
And
what I
actually,
love.
Another question then
There we go.
is Robert Eggers, all of his movies. Like, you've seen The Witch.
Right.
Did you like it more than The Lighthouse? Sorry. The Witch, The Lighthouse, and The Northman. You've seen all 3 films.
Right.
How do you rank those?
I'll definitely watch The Northman again. I saw it in the theater, and I did like it. I don't think I was gushingly loved it as much as you two do in your podcast. So I'll disagree on that end, but I'll definitely be seeing that a couple more times.
Why?
The Witch was a really great story, but how The Witch was framed in the story, I don't want to watch it again because I already know what's going to happen. Do you know what I mean? So I know that. So, and that's another thing with me is if there are movies where the story is built on this magic reveal or something like that. You know, M. Night Shyamalan pops into mind, but you know that's probably a terrible example. But when the movie has this reveal, I'll probably won't see it again because that for me was that was awesome and that was really great. But now I know it's coming. It makes the movie up to that reveal just boring as hell. You know, it's built on this one reveal. And then once you know what the reveal is, I don't need to see it again because I know how I'll feel.
What do you think of The Witch versus The Lighthouse? Which one do you think is better?
I'd watch The Witch again before I'd watch The Lighthouse. That thing was fucked up. Like, it's just so... And I don't know what you guys see that you loved so much about it. Because I was like, it's just two fucking lighthouse guys fucking cabin fever and nothing to fucking do. And I was like, you know, throughout this whole movie, I kept saying to myself,
described what I love about it.
Well, yeah, that's exactly
there's so many things I would do. Like, why the fuck weren't they not fishing? You know, go out to spend all your days fishing. What the, you know, do it. I don't know, walk around the island several times and count how many steps you do. There's so many fucking things. And instead, they're what? They're jerking each other off. They're seeing fucking mermaids and shit. They're killing birds. And I was like, and why the fuck is this in black and white? Okay. I didn't understand that either.
Okay, wait, hold on.
I'm gonna splice that rant into our lighthouse
Brilliant.
at the end of the video.
Do it.
Okay. Hold on. You have an issue with the activities they did do. Wait. And one of the activities you say, why are they doing this? Which was looking at mermaids. And the alternative you suggested was, how about you walk around the island a couple times and count your steps? How is that more exciting?
Or, just occurred to me now.
You just wanted to have 20 minutes of Willem Dafoe going 1, 2, 3.
That took me
5? No. 4, 5. Like, that's more compelling to you.
So it was windy. Yeah, why the fuck didn't they bring kites? Right? They're gonna be like, hey, let's make a kite. You know, to go out and do it, or throw rocks into the water. Anyway, it's a good comedy take on it. But I was like, this fucking movie. What is it that everyone sees? What the hell am I missing in this story? You know. Sorry, that's the other part I have to say when we talk about stories. You know, I go to see movies as well for really compelling stories. And I referenced this at the beginning of the podcast where I was talking about lazy fucking writing. After you've seen, you know, 1,000 movies or whatever, you know, pretty soon you can tell when somebody's just put a fucking scene in there. I was like, well, that was done in another movie over here. Why the fuck are you guys throwing that in there? You think it's about character development. I don't fucking need to know that he has a great grandmother living in Denver to make me feel bad when this guy dies, you know, 45 minutes from now in this movie. Let's skip that. We're already there. I mean, you know, and Brendan, you did not. So I was thinking you did not about the lazy writing. You know, because eventually you're like, okay, I've seen some really well-made movies where the story had you on the edge of your seat the whole time, where you were just like, wow, the way it was shot, and it was brilliant. And The Hurt Locker pops up right away. And I'm sure a lot of people that are listening probably hated that movie because they thought it was slow. For me, seeing
one
that
of the most loved movies of all time.
It had me on the edge of my seat the whole time. It was brilliantly shot. There didn't have to be a word said where I was like, oh, fuck. You know, remember the opening scene with
Guy Pearce.
Guy Pearce in it, you know? I was like, when he died, I was like, oh my God, I was devastated that and I didn't know a fucking thing about his character. I don't even know his character's name. I just know.
How much of that was that you were disappointed that Guy Pearce wasn't going to be in the rest of the movie, though?
Well,
right.
Yeah.
Like that's a huge part of it, right?
I was like, oh, he's gone.
Yeah, but
my
got
point
Anthony
is,
Mackie and Jeremy Renner. We were good,
right? But my point is that I didn't need to know a backstory. Whereas I've seen some long, plodding, slow, just where I had to know everything about this fucking guy before they decide to kill him, or that so that I could feel for his heartbreak. And I'm like, well, really? Because here's an example of another character I didn't give a shit about, and 5 minutes in, I was like broken that he had died, and then. But another ones that are like, we find out he has a grandmother, who's sick, and then he's got 4 kids over here. Like, let's use Heat as the example. Al Pacino. Do we fucking care about the fact that he has some sort of broken relationship with his wife, and she's bringing in she's bedding guys, as a boyfriend, and he has this. We don't care.
We do. We do.
It doesn't matter because they built his character so well that I don't need that side shit. I know that if he got killed by Robert De Niro's character in the middle or at the end or whatever have you, I would be broken because he was the character was already built. I don't need any other shit to say, he has many layers. There's an onion. Let's peel it back. By the way, I just changed my voice there. I don't know if I am
so this.
You want to unpack this?
This subjectively wrong has gone off the rails and turned into a bit of a science experiment. A little bit.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
I take massive umbrage with your idea that you can't rewatch movies with reveals in them.
Oh,
fair
we're
enough.
going that far back.
Going
Well,
back,
but I'm gonna wrap it all together. I'm gonna wrap it all together. If the problem is lazy writing, which we've talked about this entire movie, this entire episode apparently, and apparently it doesn't bother you because you've watched Suicide Squad 3 times. I make the argument that I will watch movies with big reveals in them again if they're done well.
I agree.
Right? I think Knives Out is a perfect example. It's not like they hide exactly who the killer is.
Sure.
It's very, very clear, but I can watch that movie on repeat. Right?
I don't know if it's very, very clear.
By the middle, it's pretty clear. They don't. I can rewatch that movie over and over again. M. Night Shyamalan is the same thing. I can watch Sixth Sense and Unbreakable because they're well-crafted movies.
Correct.
Everything I like Signs too.
I don't mind. I don't mind it. I think he falls apart. Village is where he starts to fall apart a little bit. So I don't. I take a little bit of umbrage to the idea that you can't rewatch movies with reveals in them because it just sounds like you don't like good movies.
Let's just have dead air there. Well, no,
and that's not like that's not even a slam. At the end of the day, I just like obviously I think the closing statement might just be like you have thousands of hours under your belt.
Yeah.
And you've absolutely curated exactly what you want out of a movie.
Well, and that's exactly right. I mean, the sad thing is I'm really hard pressed right now to give you an example of a movie that had a reveal where I was like, I'm never going to watch that again. It was a great movie. Here's a reveal. I can't because I know what's going to happen. So it takes away the joy of that part of it. But I'm it's great that we reference M. Night Shyamalan as a really good example. Like for instance, I saw Old within recently, one of his most recent films. I'll never watch it again. And the reason is not because it's not a good story or anything, but I know what happens. I know how that is and why that situation was in there. And on top of it, I thought it was lame. The reveal was really lame. But my point is, though, I'll never go and watch that again. Whereas Sixth Sense, Signs, many times, Unbreakable, obviously, many times. Like
it's just a weird. To me, it's not an excuse, but it's a reason that stands out to me because if you have thousands of hours under your belt, we've talked on the podcast before about how there are really only 5 stories that exist in the world. And it's how well you tell them.
Yeah.
Right.
You break it all down.
And you bring it all down. So the idea that you won't watch a movie because you know what's going to happen is silly in terms of the idea that you always know what's going to happen. You've watched enough movies to know.
Sure.
Right? So like you walk into Thor: Love and Thunder.
Right.
Are you going to be surprised about anything that happens in that movie?
No, you're exactly right.
Yeah.
And I think that's, but see, and I guess maybe I need to put it into context when I talk about movies where there was a surprise reveal and I'm not going to watch it again, is that and again, a terrible. Sorry, listener, I have no example. I wish right in front of me, but maybe. But where the story is all about that reveal at the end of the day. Now, Knives Out is a really good example of a movie I've seen many times and will continue because the story doesn't hinge on that reveal. Whereas that's my problem is the movies that I thought were really good and they had this amazing reveal was because the story was all about this reveal. And that's what made it, oh, okay. And the good one that you talked about was The Village as an example. I've only watched The Village a handful of times since it's been done. But not because, but they're a big reveal, but I've watched it a handful of times because of the other content and not, if it was just that and it didn't have, Adrian Brody being his, anyway, you know what I'm saying is that I watch it again because of the other parts to that. Because if it was just that reveal, I never would have gone back to it again. Because it was like, okay, this happened, and this is why they're there. All right, and now I'm never going to watch it again because the whole time I'm like, oh, she did that because they want to set it up for this. And that's why again, I go back to shitty writing is because I'm like, for me, with the movies that have this big reveal, but they build the whole movie around this, it's like one guy saying, okay, guess what? The guy is dead, and he's a ghost the whole time, and then they build the story on that, and that's all it is. He had an idea one time when he was on LSD, and it was a hit. He's a ghost! And then, if that was how they wrote it, then I'd be like, oh, fuck, I'm never going to watch that movie again. But there's other layers to it, and in particular, if we're referring to The Sixth Sense, which I've referenced, it's the kid. The kid is all, and I was like, oh, that's what makes it amazing to go see it again. I don't really care that we find out after, Bruce Willis was the ghost the whole time. It was like, wow. And so now every time I watch that movie again, I'm just watching the kid's story progress. I don't care that I already know that Bruce Willis is a ghost. Oh, spoiler. And then, or whatever. It doesn't matter because now I can go back to it and go, oh, look at those layers. And now I see what that connection is. And that's what
all I wanted you to admit because you just contradicted yourself. That's all I wanted.
Fair enough.
Listen, I genuinely am like I could do this for hours because I am genuinely fascinated by this.
Yeah.
And I don't know that I'm ever going to be able to wrap my head around it.
Right.
So I'm just going to leave it.
Yeah, I don't know if there's too much more I can add or like clearly this conversation can continue.
And it should.
Like it just seems
and
to be.
will after this.
But tune in next week when Tim says this.
But I don't think we can add much here.
I don't know that this is what we were expecting going in. Like,
oh, definitely not.
Right.
Yeah. So
well, anyway, my synopsis is don't shit on the writing. Make sure you got the story. Let's build that awesome story from beginning to end. And
just not ex-wives and shit.
Yeah, ex-wives and shit. Yeah. Sorry. Anyway, my point, and I know the listener knows my point too, and goes, yeah, he's making a really thoughtful argument.